This is the Blue Collar Future Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Robison, with our co-host, Jesse Demler today. What's up, Jesse?
What's up, man? Just back to reality. Wishing I was back on the beach instead.
No, I've never really been much on that beach life, but hey, sometimes it is fun and relaxing. What did you guys do down there other than hang around on the beach?
I feel like I got to. I feel like I got to be the beach life because I put a palm tree on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went. So we've been going every 4th of July. Well, not every, but the last couple 4th of July since we got Butter, our little pup. Because he just flies on the plane right between my feet, and we go to the beach, and he loves it. So we go out. Like this year, Ivan came with us, and me, Cena, and him went out. We went, just kind of explored around, looked at all the ridiculous yachts, and then him and I went to the Rangers and Padres game, which was sweet. Had some nice dinner, and then went out to the beach by Coronado Island, and because the dog beach is like right against, like, there's the military base fence where Breakers Beach is, like from Top Gun. And then, but past the fence there's like a creek. That's the dog beach. So your dog can run around off leash and just enjoy the day. It's really fun. And everybody's usually pretty cool. Sweet. Yeah, it's a nice little relax. Like, it felt good. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to my phone.
Yeah.
It was nice.
That's good.
How was your weekend?
It was good. We just relaxed, dude. I mean, my parents had a little party, so we had some friends and family over and stuff, and it was fun. But lately, I think I've told you I've been doing lots of video gaming, and it makes me feel like a little bit of a slack. But sometimes that's what I need. I mean, last year honestly kind of sucked, dude. Like, I have a lot of respect for people that are just like constant work 24/7 forever, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can keep doing that, it is like insane. I mean, that is a lot. I did that last year when we were building the house, and it was just always something between the house, working, side jobs, this podcast. Like, I swear I didn't do anything. So now I've been taking a step back. I'm still busy, but now if I ever have downtime, it's like I'm just like doing nothing, hanging out. makes me not want to do anything or go anywhere. It's just a time,
Yeah, I feel it.
So it's
a
time.
That's how, like, we're at a point where, like, we've got all of our couple jobs, but like the big job that's coming up is, of course, it's supposed to be ready August, but it's not going to be ready until like September.
Mm-hmm.
And so my old man's like, hey, you don't need to, like, I know that we just spent the last 6 months going as fast as we could, but you could probably slow down if you want. Like,
yeah,
if you guys don't want to work Friday, don't work Friday. Like, if you guys, I was like, cool,
yeah,
man.
why not?
Like, yeah, like some of the boys will still obviously go in and whatnot, but I'm like, maybe it would be nice to just do nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Sometimes it's what you need, because you can't. I mean, some people will just say that you're lazy if you're not just working 24/7, but it's not needed. It is.
Yeah.
Not needed, and it's not necessarily a good thing to just be working constantly. So if you can, cool. If that's what you love, cool. But
yeah, like, especially if you can get to a point where, like, you've got all your stuff in order, like if you want to take a break, you could, and like all of your financials, your house, like all that stuff is still in good. Like, you're good, like you deserve it, because last year you were ridiculous, bro.
Yeah, and it feels like the work will never end, but that's okay. So taking some time before I start getting into landscaping and doing a bunch of side projects that are coming up but haven't really started yet. So just enjoying it while it lasts, enjoying the little lull period. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. You need it.
So we'll just get right into these questions. And honestly, this kind of goes to what we were talking about. So like we were talking before we started recording about this question, but so someone asked how to switch jobs. You go over that question they asked.
Yeah. So one of my followers asked when I put the Q&A out there, he said, this might be a difficult question to answer. He's well established in his career, but he's just wants to do something else. And he's like, how do you change your career when you're this deep into it and you have, financial responsibility? You've got a family, you've got bills, you've got all that stuff. So if you were to go back to, say, an apprentice level wage, there's no way you would be able to support your life, right? In fewer words.
Yeah.
And so what his concern is he's gotten so far down this path, and he's like, I want to go do something that's more fulfilling to me, but I don't want to lose out on the income. And I've talked to him before. Like I think last year, he said he worked like 18,000 hours last year, which is crazy. And he's out on the road and like doing all this stuff. Like, you know, that's, you gotta take care of it and advantage of it when it's available, you know? But yeah, it's a hard thing to think about where, because once life becomes a little more, I don't know, like the word that comes to mind is difficult, but I don't want to use the word difficult when you start adding responsibilities, right? So you have, the house, the kid, the wife, the truck, whatever it may be. As we add these things into our life, it becomes more and more like more responsibilities. So there's more on your plate. So it's more difficult to change directions. And I think that's what he's struggling with, or it's more, and so I guess my brain goes to in that situation, like say I was just doing my thing, absolutely miserable, and I'm like, I need to do something else, or I'm just going to hate my life, or like, I don't want to continue down this path. The only thing that I can think of is to be able to set yourself up in a situation where you have your 6 to 8 to 12 months of money saved up that covers all of your bills, your necessities. Until that point, you really can't because you've got, the golden handcuffs. So like, hey, this income creates this lifestyle, but you've got to be able to save up some form of a safety net so that when you jump, like you can you can float the you can float the loss of income, right? That's where my brain goes. So it's like, even if, like, say you find something, not necessarily what you're doing, but something where your skills transfer laterally. Like I don't think you're going to go from making, like 150, $200,000 a year down to like 60 just because you wanted to switch something else. Like there's probably somewhere that's maybe a little bit more of a fit, that's less of a drastic cut. Maybe there's not. I don't know exactly what my guy does here, but I think if you could find something like that, maybe, and then have a safety net to ease up the financial worries, because like you're still going to be bringing in money, just not as much. So if you could, like, hey, I'm going to map out, say I'm going to make 60% of my income because I want to stop here, and I'm going to make that for the next 2 years. If you had a big enough safety net where like I can make this but still pay this, like that would be the only way that I would be able to, to gut it myself, like, or like to take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It's this is
it's a hard one to think about.
this is a hard one, and it's a concern people have, and it's something that's brought up, right? So it's like I'm big on the idea that you can change up whenever you want, and it's never too late. The one thing I get really annoyed about with college and university is pushing 18-year-old kids to go get shacked up with a bunch of student loans for something that they may not know they want to do or not. I think you can
Mm.
go when you're 30 back to school, and if you get 10 years of work experience and realize, oh yeah, I want to go, be in the health field. I want to go be an engineer or something like that. It's much less daunting, I think, because you have, your life experience behind you, and maybe you've gotten a little more financial security behind you. But the flip side of that is exactly what this guy is running into. Is it is kind of hard to go take a pay cut when you've been into something for so long. And that happens because, a lot of people, as we go on through our life, we assimilate to our paycheck. And it's like every freaking dollar of that dang paycheck goes somewhere. And if you don't have a purpose for it, it'll find a place to go. And a lot of that is in like
Right.
random toys, things that you don't need, a bunch of it just finds somewhere to go. So you don't have like a clear plan for it, you won't have money. So like we spend pretty much what we make. And that's what I started to notice a
Hmm.
lot. Like you see people that are doctors making 200 grand a year that are living paycheck to paycheck because they
Hmm.
just spend every single penny they have on just whatever it is. So what I'm getting at here, if you can find a way to not do that and you can save up that money, it makes that transition much, much easier. And I think that's about the only way you can. So you have to have that plan going into it. You probably have to go, like you said, find somewhere that's a lateral move, and you probably have to,
Hmm.
if not, you have to have a clear plan and goal as to when you can start making the kind of money that you're making right now again. And if that's not ever an option, then at least you know that. And if you know that, you need a plan for it. If you can live on less than you make and not borrow a bunch of money, you really can have a bunch of financial freedom. I think another aspect to this too is the fact that we spend everything we make is only highlighted more by the fact that people just borrow money constantly for everything. And when you get into
Mm-hmm.
that lifestyle and that mindset of debt, you are shackled down to your current job, because most of the time you've taken out multiple loans and you have to have that amount of income coming in to cover all your bills. So you're stuck, like you're screwed. So if you can
Mm-hmm.
get out of debt and get your uh your 6 months or whatever expenses that you feel the need, maybe you need more than 6 months, who knows, if you can get all that figured out, I think the transition's easy. It's just the climate nowadays is climate around money nowadays is a little funky. It'll take listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast a couple times a week to realize how bad people are with their money.
Mm-hmm. Bro, whenever we're in the car, Christine and I listen to Caleb Hammer. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard of him,
Yeah.
but I love it because he crashes out every episode, and
Yeah.
it's like, how did you find these people?
Yeah.
But a better example, I don't know if you've ever read the book The Richest Man in Babylon,
I've heard of that book.
but
Yeah.
it's yeah, I love that book. The Richest Man in Babylon is basically, the richest man. It's about him, but the author or the narrator has the experience with this guy, learns how he created his wealth, and he teaches him the concept of like, you have to pay yourself first, right? So he teaches him the concept to take his 10%, put it away before he pays any of his bills, before he pays any of his stuff, put it away, don't use it on anything. And then once, like, throughout the story, this guy saves up a good amount of money, and then he gives his money to this guy who says he's going to go off to the distant land and get this and come back, and they're going to make more money with it. But it's in an industry the guy doesn't know. And so he comes back, he's lost all his money, so he has to repeat himself. And the richest man in Babylon teaches him, hey, only invest your money in areas you know. So like whatever that is, but he's like, just the concept of like paying yourself first, and whether it's the 10% or whatever you can save. And that's something that, I guess, like you said, of living below your means, is another thing. So we have a couple of the young guys at work. They're, you know, 8 and 10 years younger than me. And one of them the other day was like, dude, how do you do so much? Like, how do you, like, you're always going somewhere, you're always doing this or doing that. Like, you've got the night, like I've got the bike, I've got the truck, like that sort of stuff. And I'm like, well, I mean, when I was your age at 21, I wasn't like, he's gone out and, he's married, has his family and stuff like that. So it's like his priorities are different than mine. I was like, I, really lived below my means for a long, long time. I lived in a house with like all the boys. Rent was $200, $300 a month because there were 7 of us in the house. Just stuff like that. So it gave me the freedom to go do these other things and put my money elsewhere. It's just that concept of like I set up something that I could do to create a little bit of income or a little bit of like a retirement income in the 10 pay that I did through my sister's boss at the time, who's insurance agent. And that's paid off next year. So it's something like I've been putting a certain amount of money into this thing every month for the last 9.5 years of my life. I have, on top of that, I've been increasing my income for the last 12 years. And so like I tried my best to not bring everything up with it. Like my truck's paid off. I don't live in a big house. Like we live in a townhome, or like my mortgage payment's really small. Just stuff like that of it's like, even though like I've from the time I was 21 till now, I've probably like quadrupled my income. I didn't quadruple my bills with it. And so like I get like I'm in a different situation than maybe the guy asking the question, because I don't have kids or anything like that. Like I've just got a little chihuahua, and I can pay for his food pretty easy. I don't have to like do all that. I don't have to do all that stuff. So it's like I don't want it to seem ignorant that I'm like, hey, live below your means, don't have kids. That's not what I'm getting at. But like I think just those couple concepts of like, if you want to change your life path, like do what you said. You got to build your safety net, maybe make a move laterally, and then get some financial wherewithal, like some financial knowledge, whether it's through podcasts like we talked about, or going and like investing your time in places online that might be able to teach you those sort of things, or finding a mentor or those sort of things like that. And then figuring out how to like live below your means and pay yourself first. And you just got to figure out how to like you said, put your money somewhere, or it's going to run somewhere else. Because like if you're not going to account for it, like how are you going to be able to tell where it
Yeah,
goes?
exactly.
Or like I guess the cliche statement is like, if you fail to plan, you're just planning to fail, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Like that's been my like I don't mean to say this to be callous or not understanding. So is I this is coming from a place where I was in the situation, at least like I have lived above my means, I think, a lot and had all the toys,
Mm.
borrowed the money, whatever. And I just look back and think about if I hadn't done all of that stuff when I did and just saved my money when it came to, and I had to start like just getting rid of stuff when life started getting real and I couldn't just sit here and keep having all these toys and stuff. I probably would have been able to have them at that point and paid cash for them. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt as much because I wouldn't be just like doling out payments all the time. I mean, there was one point I had multiple trucks, snowmobiles, and bikes all at the same time. I mean, I don't need all that crap. I had my own little work truck. I had my own
Yeah.
ice truck, that I would drive around, and a couple snowmobiles, a couple bikes. It was fun, but this is the trap that happens, I think, with people that are in blue collar work. And I don't remember if this guy was doing a blue collar work right now or if he was like trying to transition to.
Yeah, he is.
It seems like it's very common to get the big truck, to get all the toys, to do it, whatever, like, because everybody else is doing it, keeping up with the Joneses and stuff. And everybody's living above their
Hmm.
means. Everybody's living above their means. And it's almost like a lot of the guys want to act like they make a bunch of money, like right up front.
Yeah.
It's hard because you do make quite a bit of money in blue collar work, but most people, it just disappears. Waste it all on gas station
Mm.
food and toys and all this random stuff. Just like
Mm.
gone. And then the big funny thing is
Yeah.
child support, because every
Hmm.
many guys have child
Yeah.
support they got to pay for. Anyways, like all of this stuff all just compiles. But if you can figure out a way to live below your means and then make that plan for that money to go be set aside so that you have the freedom
Mm.
later on, is super important.
Yeah.
I
Some delayed gratification
Yes.
is very
And I
important.
almost wonder if he probably feels like he can't because he doesn't have that safety net, like you said, um, and have that plan. Because if you had all that stuff, I mean, it's easy. I mean, that's to the point where you have FU money,
Hmm.
essentially. If you have your expenses covered for 6 months and you don't have any debt, essentially, what's to stop you from going to
Hmm.
do something else? There's nothing
Yeah.
really at that point. So,
Hmm.
yep, I think that's the
Yeah.
short of it.
Dude, yeah. I say, dude, I remember it was on one of those like news things. I mean, maybe it was like 60 Minutes or just something like that. My dad was watching. I remember I was younger
Hmm.
at the house, and I remember watching it. And it was talking about the kids that go out in the oil field and make money because it was like talking about maybe it was like during one of the booms, and then everybody started getting laid off because gas dropped, right?
Yep.
And the guy was out there talking. He was like in the man camp talking to everybody, and like I remember, I vividly remember him talking to like three or four dudes, and they've got like the brand new 100 with the fifth wheel, and like their whole camp is just freaking plush, bro. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, I remember him asking me like, what did you make on your check? And this kid's like, something silly, like something between 8 to 12 grand on his check.
Yeah.
And he goes, "How much is in your savings? How much is in your savings account?" And he's like 150 bucks. I was like, "Bro, like that has stuck with me for so long." Like
Yeah.
I remember watching that as a kid and being like, "Hey, I never want to do this."
Yeah.
Like, but it's I know, I mean it's easy to get in the trap of like you just add something and you're like, "Cool, I'll just go work more hours because I
Hmm.
can pay for it." Or you add like,
Yeah.
and whether it's something silly like those kids that's unnecessary, or bring kids into your life for a partner or a house or things like that, that's like we just bring ourself up to that, the income up to that, and then you eventually get trapped in this like I have to do this to complete this. And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think
Yeah,
the
it's
mistake people
crazy.
make is when borrowing money and getting into that trap or that cycle, I guess. It's like you
Hmm.
almost just assume that the money's always going to come and you can always just work more to pay for it. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
And it's not always the case that you'll want to. And you might want to switch careers like this person does.
Yeah.
I've actually been listening to Dave Ramsey a lot lately, just because it's one of those things that helps me like keep myself on the track, keeps myself from
Yeah.
spending all the dumb money that I don't need to spend, and then making me feel good about myself a little bit because some of the people that call in are crazy, but it really is pretty simple, but it's also hard to keep that in mind all the time because if you
Mhm.
have the money in your account, it's like, oh yeah, I can spend that money. I've got that money in my account. So
Yeah.
we've been saving money, for our emergency stuff and just put it into account that nobody looks at. So it's like sometimes I forget
Mhm.
how much is in there, and that's good because I'm not going to be like, I can spend that money right now. I got that much money, but I
Yep.
don't because it's
Yep.
for emergencies. Don't need to spend that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like any of my side income or my social media income or any of that stuff, as soon as I get it, I take the percentage that I've deemed necessary and leave it in my checking account. But literally everything else goes into, like, for me, it's my crypto account. And so all that goes over there. And like I never open the crypto account itself. I just open, like, I have a forum app that I can see the charts.
Yeah.
And I roughly know what my value is, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't look at the number, because if I look at the number and be like, oh, I could pay off my Harley, I could buy a new truck, whatever dumb thing it's gonna be, and I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But
Jesse's a
yeah,
crypto
it's like,
nerd over here.
I am, dude. No, I'm just a gambler at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just
I haven't really been against crypto. Dave Ramsey's really against crypto. He says it's gambling. I'm not that strongly
yeah,
opinioned of it. I've had crypto, so whatever. You could think of it what you
yeah,
will.
yeah. Dave's Dave's got a lot of good points. Like, I think Dave's really good for the person that's like financially illiterate and trying to like get to a point where they understand a lot of things, and
Yeah,
they're getting out of their first bad debt and those sort of things. And
yeah,
then there's some stuff that he said that I'm like,
yeah.
that's like kind of out of pocket to me, and I'm like, that you keep that one over there, but I'm going to listen to the majority of what you said.
I used to.
Like, what do you like? I'd say same thing.
Yeah, dude. I used to say that too, that he was for the people that don't know what they're doing with money. But I'm starting to
Hmm.
think that that advice is a surefire way to just be financially secure, I guess. And that you only hear the crazy stuff that he says, like never borrow money, never do this, never do that, like all that stuff. When you start listening to his actual advice, it is actually pretty
Yeah.
logical and common sense, and it is the whole point of his system is like, oh yeah, baby step millionaire, a hundred
Yeah.
dollars invested, I think every week for 20 years is $1 million. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
easy math, and that's
Yeah.
basically what they teach. So I don't know, I started listening to
Yeah.
his stuff and I'm like, wow, he actually has a lot more that I agree with than I thought, and a lot more. That being said, my house is definitely in this situation not Dave Ramsey approved because he has some
Yeah.
crazy requirements, dude. He is like, you got to have a 15-year fixed mortgage that is 25% of your income. And I'm like doing the numbers on that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that exists here
That's impossible.
unless you
Yeah.
have like 150 grand to put down because you can't even find a
Yeah.
townhome for less than like 300, and a house that you buy that's less than 3 or 2 is going to be run down piece of crap that you got to spend that much to fix. So I don't know. Anyways,
Hmm.
engine. But
Yeah.
so
Take everything with a grain of salt.
yeah, yeah, everything. Overall, pretty good to follow. So our next question was about why is blue collar work high in demand, but nobody wants to pay. That is a hard one as
I
well.
think, yeah, and that's interesting. Like, this one has maybe a dynamic, like a societal dynamic, or maybe a consumer dynamic, right? It's obviously in high demand because there's a skill gap that's getting wider and wider, and there's fewer and fewer tradespeople to accomplish the tasks that are wanted. So it's like me in my instance. I There's a lot of the time where I happen to be the mason in the area who answered his phone and they can't get a hold of anybody else, and I have my price that I like. we've talked about this, where like I have a price that I am going to charge regardless because it's taking time away from my family. It's taking
Yep.
time away, like that's put into my bid. And I can do that because I am one of few,
Mm.
of like in this area. And so like there's just naturally a high demand for it because there's fewer skilled tradespeople. But then when it comes to it, of like you have people that like you have the like, oh well, so and so said he'd do it for cheaper, or like, well, when I looked online, these guys said this, and I'm like, or it's just people don't like, it's just consumerism of like people have like their good, better, best, and they're willing to pay for good. They just want something on the wall, or you have clientele who's willing to pay for the best. Like, I want you here because you're going to do a good job. At the end of the day, when I stare at this wall, I'm happy that you laid it because it looks perfect. Right. And so maybe it's just in the clientele that you pursue. Like, hey, there's, like each barrel, like you can go after, like, I deliver this product. So, like, that's the clientele that's going to pay for that product is these people. That's who I do work for. I think when I was starting to do side jobs and stuff like that, I definitely had a lower price. So, like, the clientele I dealt with was way different than the ones I deal with now. Like that dude that just had me do his thin brick wall didn't even question. He was like, "Yep, here, have it in. I know you can have it done." Like, versus like the people when I was like charging maybe like 40% of what I'm charging now, or like way more, like, oh, I need this and I need this, like we got to find the cheapest material, we got to do this and that sort of thing. So it's, yeah, I think it's just the skill gap, but then like just
Yeah.
consumerism in general. Like people don't want to pay what things are worth. Like, I don't want to pay $100,000 for a new truck even though I want one.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's important to touch on right there too, because like when you get a cheap client, it's a freaking cheap client. So
Hmm.
they are just cheap all around and a pain to work for. And when you start raising prices and stuff, it's weird because you think you might not get as much work, but there is actually a point where it actually attracts better clients and you're getting paid better. So it's a better scenario
Hmm.
for you, whether you're talking about side work or for your business and whatever else it is. There's obviously a point where you can't just keep forever increasing prices, but you almost can play a game in increasing prices and seeing what people are willing to pay. And I've noticed in our kind of business ventures, like with our website company and then with my own like side jobs, my own concrete jobs and stuff, as I've increased the amount I charge, I've gotten better clients as well as more or at least about the same. Like like getting the same amount of jobs. It's not like it's
Hmm.
just not getting any.
Hmm.
So it's one of those weird things where you come from a place of scarcity thinking that you can only make so much money and you'll attract those type of people. I
Hmm.
think I think though, like if you go the other way and you go to like this whole problem trickles down the chain. So if you're looking at it from an employee employer standpoint, the employers are dealing with this too. So that's part of the issue. It's like you can't hardly pay guys what they're worth when you're not getting what it's worth to do the job. And this is a big issue
Yes.
in residential construction because there's so many people that are just literally will just do it for cheap, do it for cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's I can't quite bag on a certain people or anything, but I know back when the economy went down, around here there was a lot of weird stuff going on with pricing, and like there was a lot of Hispanic families that were coming here, and they were living like three families in a home doing things for like dirt cheap, and that
Hmm.
really like screwed up a lot of pricing structure stuff for just general residential construction. I don't want to say that's their fault, but that's their culture. And they were like, close down there. They come here, everybody's used to being separated and big homes and stuff. And it's like now all of a sudden people are used to paying cheap and they don't want to pay more for they view as the same quality product or same product in general.
Yeah.
You deal with that type of stuff. So it depends on who you work for. If you go try to work for a cheapskate, they're not going to pay you. So I mean, you
Hmm.
got to find the right employer, you got to find the right client, whatever it is. They're out there. People do want to pay. I think it's unfair to say that nobody wants to pay in general because there are people out there. You just got to look, and you can't just take every job that opens up. So
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I think you're right. And it's like, it's up to, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's up to me to educate somewhat of like, hey, this is what we're all getting, so stop charging, seven
Yeah.
dollars a square foot, $7 a square foot to lay
Yeah.
stone when the rest of us are getting 35. Like,
Yeah.
but you also have to like, if you're going to propose that price, you have to propose that value. So like, you have
Uh,
to do that quality of work. So it's, what do you do? I feel like a lot of guys, especially like the residential space, is a race to the bottom, and I've
yeah.
never understood it. When
Yeah.
it
No,
could be, hey, we're all
it,
charging this, stop it.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because when you're doing work on people's homes, they almost expect you to give them, like some people, and this is where it goes to finding the right client, but they almost expect you to like do it for a good deal, a good price, because this is
Yeah.
my house. Like this is, and it's like that doesn't change what the project is and what it's going to cost. Like
Yeah.
if you just want the cheapest person, just tell me and I won't give you a bid and you can go find someone else. That's actually what I've wanted to tell quite a few people because I can tell through conversations kind of what people are, get a feel for what they're after. And I almost
Mhm.
want to tell people right from the get-go, like, look, if you're looking for the cheapest person, that's not me. If you're taking bids from like 15 people and you're just going to pick the cheapest one, I'm not even going to send you a bid because I know I'm not going to be the cheapest. I'm not going to be the most expensive, but I'm not going to be the cheapest. So I'm like, I don't even, it's a waste of my time. And there's a lot of people out there like that. They just bid shop, they just try to find the cheapest possible. It's hard because you want to get multiple bids for things to get an idea.
Mhm.
But if you're getting multiple bids, people are most likely going to go with the cheapest option, especially in this
Mhm.
space. So it's like, it's a hard, it just comes down to finding the right people to be around.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because yeah, I feel I feel like getting like if you're the homeowner, and like, what do I do? Get like three bids because like that's probably gonna give you what you want. And you're gonna be able to get like this dude's really cheap, this dude's really expensive. The dude in the middle is probably the one that you want.
Uh,
Like, because it's just like, hey, that dude's like it's fair price. He's probably gonna do quality work, that sort of thing. But that's
yeah.
my 2 cents.
If you're getting multiple, I would definitely say just try to shoot for a middle one and try to just go with the person that you, I don't know, connected with the best. I mean, people need to start thinking a little bit less with like just the bottom dollar and more with how they feel about how someone is too, because that's also
Yeah.
important. Like, when I'm going through talking to a potential client, if I get a bad vibe from them or if they seem annoying or whatever, I almost just don't even pursue it anymore because it's
Yeah.
not worth an annoying client, a hassle client, someone that's going to be texting you like at all hours of the night and stuff. It's just not worth that. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
multiple
I agree
bids,
on that.
choose a middle,
Yeah.
unless
And
you just want
yeah,
to choose the expensive for no reason, but whatever.
yeah, do what you want. But yeah, to answer the question, I think it's just the skill gap is why the
Yeah.
demand's so high, and then just basic consumerism for people don't want to pay for what things are. Because like I said, I don't want to pay what a new truck costs, even though I want one. Like I'm in the same boat. It's just a different lane.
Beauty of capitalism and
Hmm.
the hard part about capitalism. Well, let's wrap this up with the last question that's kind of not really something we should answer, but we're gonna anyways. The person asked me for ways to strengthen lower back for a new concrete worker. And
Mm.
the end of this is back feels like it seizes up. So I can split that answer into two. We'll start off with if you feel like your back is seizing up, this isn't really something that you can just fix with some question from some person on a podcast. So you probably ought to go get help. I've never had that, so I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to give advice for that. Also, because
Mm.
I'm not a medical
Professional.
professional, so I couldn't even think of the word there. I'm not a medical professional. So if your back is feeling like it's seizing up, like there's a point where we've talked about this before, where you're just kind of putting things off and just making things worse. You just gotta go get help. Either go to a physical therapist or see something, do something different in your day and see how it goes. But as far as like ways to strengthen your lower back, I mean, honestly, just in general, you can stay away from unnecessary like sitting around and sitting on the couch and stuff, because I'm gonna tell you the times my back feels the worst is when I'm just like sitting around all the time. and
Mm.
sitting on the couch because you just like decompress and like sink into the dang couch, and then it like opens up your back and spine into all these weird positions, and it like freaking absolutely wrecks you. So like we're not meant to do that. So that's probably one thing that could be a contributor as far as pain. But strengthening, I mean, honestly, light workouts, anything that's like sort of leg based will really help a lot. And
Yeah.
deadlifts, I mean, as long as you're not pushing yourself too much, you know. But
Mm-mm.
yeah,
I'd say
that's
yeah,
all.
to that
That's what I say.
like, because you got the exercises, like probably learn proper form.
Yep, yep,
That'll help your lower
exactly.
back a lot. Because like, I mean, like I've been in the gym enough times that like when I was younger, it's, maybe not using proper form and more of my ego, and you
Hmm.
go do squats, and that's when you hurt your lower back because you're
Yeah,
not doing the right thing. But then you talk to you learn a couple things, and you revert back to like, okay, I'm going to do perfect form with lower weight, and then eventually you can lift the heavier weight.
yep,
So I think, yeah, learn proper form, do a little bit of research, your stretching, your light workouts, things like that, and avoid using your ego both in the gym and the job site, because like no one's impressed by how much work you can do if you're not going to be able to stand up when you're 50.
yeah. That's an important thing that you point out always that I never think about for some reason. Because like my knee jerk reaction is to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get stronger and do all this stuff so I can do more. But I never do that actually. It's just like something in my head to push me or something.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, don't do stupid stuff that you could get help for. Start to One thing I will say is start to like consciously think about your limits and what you can and can't do for real, because I think that's part of the issue, because a lot of people get like to this ego lifting match with everybody. Look at me, look what I can do, look how many boards I can haul, look how many steaks I can haul. But you probably wouldn't be doing that if you start thinking about what you consciously think about what you can do. But the important thing there is when you start learning the proper form and you start strengthening yourself, you can take on a little bit more. Yes. So it's just like people get really early on and they're not very strong. They haven't been doing it very long. They're not used to it. And then they just like push themselves too hard and get hurt. That's how a lot of stuff
Hmm.
goes. So I think the muscle memory, the time on the job, like all that stuff plays into it. I think one really important part is working on mobility.
Hmm.
That is what I will say. Learning the proper form and stretching and stuff, but especially mobility. There's a lot of people out there you can follow. I would recommend like the knees over toes guy. I think his thing is called Athletic Truth Group. They do a lot of stuff that's like body weight workouts that are mobility based and stuff, and it's all about opening up the range of motion and strengthening through your range of motion so that you are like actually working out in your full range of motion, and that helps open up your range of mobility and in turn helps strengthen your body, helps protect against injury. So I think that's one thing a lot of people just kind of miss. They don't really work on any sort of mobility, and the proper form also plays into there because people like do half reps on everything, and it's important to do like kind of body weight type stuff that's like full possible range of motion type stuff. And when you start
Hmm.
like opening up your hips a bunch, it really affects how your lower back operates, and the mobility of your legs really plays into how your lower back feels. And so I know this from experience actually, so that's super important, and it's probably something that can help. But this is all beside the point, because if your back feels like it's seizing up, go get help. This is just additions you can try, you can do. Don't take my advice and say I'm gonna go squat 500 pounds and that's gonna help. This is extras anybody can do that can help out. And I do always recommend working out and stretching, doing all that stuff, but just at your pace and gradual progressions and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you nailed that.
One of these days, I'll compile some information. There's like so much swirling in there that it's hard for me to summarize it sometimes, but there's a lot you can do.
Yeah.
And mostly all of it involves just doing little tweaks here and there, doing a little bit more here, doing a little bit more there. Almost never what people think it is. You never start working out and all of a sudden you're like working out 5 days a week and doing working out for 2 hours at a time and pushing all this weight all the time. Like it's very gradual and it's very much not what people think all the time. So anyways, on that note, I think we got that one in the bag.
Yep. I think we did good.
So if you guys have questions, make sure to reach out. We compiled questions a couple times this time, so maybe we'll keep doing that. Maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
We always see
Little
how it goes.
stockpile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Watch if you're listening. Watch for the stories or join
Yeah, the
Jaden's channel on Instagram, and you can get right to us there.
Yeah. Awesome, Jesse.
I can't, dude.
I
Thanks, man.
appreciate you as always.
Yeah. Sorry
Yeah.
for keeping you up so late.
Oh, dude, that's how it goes. Holiday weekends and stuff.
Yep. Yep. I'm paying the tax.
Yes. All right, guys. We're out. We'll see you next time.
See ya.